They lost on purpose over and over and over and over again. The Washington Generals' legacy isn't one of defeat, though, but of a commitment to a role that has brought joy to millions. Let's explore the power of intentional sacrifice. Absolutely, we always aim for success, but sometimes the most meaningful victories come through purposeful losses. Got it.
So let's talk about in Generals, who are the losingest team in the history of basketball because they play the Harlem Globetrotters. And the guy that started this was a guy by the name of Red Klotz, not Klutz, Klotz. Although you may think about Klutz when you think about he thought about losing. But he was the founder of the Washington Generals. First of all, this guy, Jamie, he was a man, he was 5'7" tall, which is kind of legally a hobbit terms. But yet, in 1948, he won. He was on a team that won an NBA championship. It was with the Baltimore Bullets. And a year later, he was playing against the Harlem Globetrotters, and something just clicked in his mind. And kind of it just, hey, this is what we could do. And that's kind of how it got started. Losing would be a good thing.
Well, I never realized hobbits even played basketball. I mean, I know they know about second breakfast and all. But, it's so true, though, because Red really actually kind of saw something that was bigger than himself, right? Like hey, here's an opportunity, fun, a lot of joy to others, and not just to myself. So it wasn't that he was trying to be a star, wasn't trying to he was trying to win another championship or anything like that. So I think it was like 1952. Then he created the Washington Generals, a team whose sole purpose was to play the Harlem Globetrotters, make them look good. So like every comedy act, always has the straight person, the person who plays everything straight.
Wait.
It sets up.
Who's the straight guy between the two of us, and who's the cut up, or do we trade?
I think we trade.
We do not. Go ahead.
But in a comedy act, every comedy duo, there's always the person who plays up the comedian to make fun of them or to make the situation funny for the audience. That was what Red saw as an opportunity with the Washington Generals to say, hey, let's make these Globetrotters look really, really good and bring a whole bunch of joy to other people. So that's what he did.
And by the way, these guys on the Washington Generals, they weren't scrubs. These guys, they could play college standouts. They were overseas pros. They had some real talent. But when they joined the Globetrotters, they were paid to lose with dignity. Kind of like Dad in the driveway in a pick. You could win, but you have to let your son or daughter win for a while.
Sure. I was actually,
right.
When I was just going to be reading about this too, some of the people or some of the players for the Washington Generals, while they played, they eventually became a Globetrotter sometimes. Like they actually then started playing on the Globetrotters. Just kind of talk a few numbers here. I mean, so here's a team that their sole purpose is to lose. How many times do you think they've lost, Bill?
Or 7.
Yes, over
17.
17,000 actually. So just a few more than 7. You know what though? They have actually won some games.
How many games did they win?
They've actually won 3 times.
How did that go over? Imagine paying a ticket price for you and your family to go and get popcorn and get all the Globetrotters do their thing, and you don't even know that the Washington Generals were even there.
Right.
And then on 3 separate occasions they won.
That'd be a little bit disappointing. Like their most infamous win. It was kind of like the last second shot that the Globetrotters realized they were down. It was getting late in the game, so the Globetrotters actually started playing ball, but they just didn't have enough time to catch up, and they ended up losing. I think it was by like 1 point, like as 100-99 score, and the Generals ended up winning that night. It was like in Tennessee.
And
could you, like you said, could you imagine being that crowd though?
Oh, they booed. It was like it was like they killed Santa Claus. They told their kid Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah.
The Globetrotters, they refused to shake hands. It was like the script got flipped. He said, you guys didn't follow the script. You were, well, but doesn't this play on your mind? Being on a team that loses every night. Now, also think about a player on the bench that's going to lose.
I'm not even good enough to go play for the team that's supposed to lose.
Hey, I got a paycheck.
I'm the losers.
I got a paycheck. So great. This is the Washington Generals. They lose. They're losers, but they lose on purpose. So what? What's that got to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some things we could probably take away from this stuff, right? I mean, so I think one lesson is that it isn't always about winning, right?
Right. Okay.
Sometimes, we so much emphasis on we have to win, we have to be this huge success, and I think what ultimately we should really be focusing on is like, do we just stay out and do the thing that we were designed to do?
Showing up, I think, is winning. Showing up is
I,
winning. Now, somebody said that you spent half of your life standing in line. Now, somebody else said just showing up is half of life. So if you show up and stand in line, that's life. That's just
kind of all.
that's the whole thing. Yeah, but I mean, when you said
There should be more to it than that.
yeah, when you said purpose isn't always about winning, I totally agree with you. Showing up, you just have to show up consistently. As a matter of fact, you can't even begin to win unless the first thing you do is show up. You know?
The generals did is that they showed up every night knowing that they're supposed to win. But so it was a matter of like, well, what is our purpose? Well, our purpose to the audience and the way that we do the Trotters look good. We make the Globetrotters make fun of us, so it becomes a funny situation for the audience. Like that becomes the purpose, right?
Right. Right.
And then if you do that and you do that consistently, then I would say that is actually is winning.
Yes.
You don't end the day with a W in your column.
Right. Right. So
What else do you got, though?
well, I love this thought before we even move on because this brings up a really good thought. Red Clontz wasn't trying to beat the Globetrotters by creating the Washington Generals. He was trying to complete them.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I really like that. He was trying to complete them, and I think that's that's a big deal. Part of our job in life is to complete somebody else. If you want to go to Jerry Maguire, you complete me. Yeah, okay. Bit of a sideline, but that's the idea. Purpose isn't always about winning; it's about completing. Another thought that we can toss in here is humility is a powerful thing. In a world obsessed with winning, these guys made a living losing, but dignity. They showed us how to support others and how to beating the spot. Humility is powerful.
No, everybody sort of the Globetrotters. When the Globetrotters were a really big thing, you knew who some of the players were. I don't think you could probably name a single player from the Washington Generals, even if you even had them. But yet they still showed up, like we talked about just a minute ago. They still showed up with a purpose. But then they had to do that with a whole bunch of humility. They had to, at the end of the night, Globetrotters were going to get all the glory and all the signing the autographs and selling merchandise, and the Generals just had to kind of just walk back to their dressing room or the locker room and go on about life with no recognition.
Yep, but they're in the background. Like they find their place and they know it's not on the stage. Like when I think about church, and I'm always thinking about techie stuff and everything like that. And the best and churches today are really embracing heroes of a worship service is the tech team. If you don't tech team, they've done a good job.
They're doing their job well.
They've done their job. The slide came up at the right time. They didn't go to the wrong, worship chorus words or whatever like that. You actually
the lights work when they're supposed to. The slides work when they're supposed to. The sound's the right level. It's not too loud. It's not too soft.
Yep.
You don't know that they're there. If they're doing their job well, you don't know they're there. Which is so like I'm not going to get recognized for this.
Yeah,
that's going to be the worship team. It's going to be pastors. It's going to be the other people. They're the ones that are going to be recognized for putting on the worship service. But I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. But you have to show up and do your job as well. So, our thought, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of ties in with what we've already talked about, and that sometimes in order to have if your legacy, meaning like you've done what you've done very well for a long, like that's kind of what legacy is, right? So sometimes that legacy doesn't have to come with a trophy, right? It's like, again, if you go back to what we've already talked about, if you show up consistently doing what you know you're designed to do, you do it really, really well, and you don't do it for any kind of admiration. You just do it because you know you're fulfilling your purpose. Like that becomes your legacy. That's who you are. And like you think of Red Clontz, right? Like He played basketball into his sixth. He wasn't chasing rings. He wasn't chasing championships. He was just chasing joy. He was chasing this idea of like, how can I bring joy and laughter and fun to millions of people? That became his legacy, whether you know his name or not.
Kind of for the love of the game idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Win, lose, I'm going to play a game. And we need to stay in the game. So I want to bring one verse to light, Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. And it says this, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility, value others above yourselves. And that's kind of red clounce in a verse.
It really is. He didn't do it for himself. He did it for others. That's kind of it. So here's a question for you. If you're listening today, what's that thing you keep showing up for? Even if you feel like you're losing, maybe it's in your job, it's in a relationship, it's at parenting, it's maybe that dream that just isn't seeming to take off yet. What's that one thing? And can you get really consistent to just keep showing up, doing it because you know that's what you're designed to do?
Yeah, I think showing up is the thing to do. And it's not that you don't try to win. Our art is to be the best that we can be, to give all that we can. And the generals was to give all that they got, to be the best they can. Their role was to lose with dignity and give the Harlem Globetrotters the platform that they need to be who they helped bring joy to millions by losing. By losing.
1,000 times, I believe. So can I. So can us.
Right. And we're not telling you to be losers. We're telling you effective and be the best you can be and know your role and do your role to the best of its ability. So thanks for joining us today on Absolutely But. So if you like this episode, please leave us a review, share it with someone who feels like they're stuck into a losing streak. And as always, just keep showing up. I'm Bill. That's Jamie.